morning, dear students. Myself, Dr. Varsha Rani, Assistant Professor, Department of Crop Physiology, BAU Ranchi. Today, I am going to deliver a new topic, that is plant growth and growth regulators. So, growth regulators are also known as phytohormones or plant growth regulators, and these are chemical messengers in plant kingdom. And this particular term, that growth regulators are chemical messenger, was proposed by Sachs. So, before coming to growth regulators or before discussing the details of growth regulators, first of all, we must understand what is plant growth. So plant growth, growth has two important terms, that is growth and development. So we will discuss these two terms very minutely, and you please understand what is growth and what is development. So growth is an irreversible increase in size or increase in dry weight of a cell, of organ or whole organism. So here you must take care of the word irreversible or permanent. Growth means permanent increase in size of the cell or permanent increase in dry weight. For example, I would like to give you the example of imbibition. You know imbibition, there are dry seeds which soak water in order to germinate, and after soaking the water, after absorbing or adsorbing the water, after imbibing the water, the seed swells in size. So will you call it growth? No, not at all. By the process of imbibition, the swelling of seed is not growth, because it is not permanent change. There is no permanent increase in size of the seed. It may lose water and it may again shrink to its normal size. So growth must be permanent or irreversible. So here the definition of growth is, in living organism, growth may be defined as irreversible increase in the number and size of a cell, organ or whole organism related to change in size and mass. Now coming to development. Development is overall sum of all the changes that take place throughout the life cycle of any organism. Either it may be plant or it may be animal. So here in this figure, here you can see that it is a life cycle of a flowering plant, and it starts from seed. This is the seed which will germinate first. It will develop into radicle and plumule. Then this radicle and plumule will grow. So here is the growth, means the length of the plant will increase, the biomass of the plant will increase, the area of the leaf will increase, like that. So this particular increase in size or this particular increase in dry weight is growth. Now again this life cycle is going on. From here it will flower, the plant will flower, there will be pollination of the flowering plant, and again it will develop into fruit, fruit will set seed, and seed will again shed to germinate. So this whole change throughout the life cycle of the plant or any organism is referred to as development. Now there are certain important reasons where growth in any organism, or especially here we are talking about plant, takes place. So there are three important reasons of growth, that is apical meristem, intercalary meristem and lateral meristem. So apical meristem means it is growth will take place in apices. So in plant there are two important means apical points, that is shoot apical meristem and root apical meristem. So this apical meristem, the cells or the meristem, meristematic tissues or cells which are present in the apical region, shoot or root apical meristem, these are having very thin wall and they have capacity to divide rapidly. They undergo cell division very rapidly. So because of this rapid cell division, what happens? The plant grows in length. If it is root, it will go downwards, and if it is shoot, it will go upwards. So this apical meristem is responsible for increase in length or increase in growth at the apices. Now coming to intercalary meristem. So intercalary meristem is mainly present in angiosperm, especially monocots like bamboo, rice, etc. And this particular meristem, intercalary meristem, is present below the base of the node. It is present below the node. So increase means division in intercalary meristem will give elongation in the stem. There will be stem elongation, especially in case of monocots like bamboo or rice. So the activity of meristematic intercalary meristem will also lead to increase in height or length of the plant. Now coming to lateral meristem. So lateral meristem is mainly confined in cambium or core cambium, and the division in lateral meristem will add to the girth or thickness. It will lead to secondary growth in the plant. Now there are three important phases of growth in plant. So if we are talking about the phase of growth, here we have taken the example of root. So this is the root segment, and here you can see there are three important phases of growth. That is, first is the phase of cell division, second is the phase of cell elongation, and third is the phase of cell differentiation. So in the phase of cell division, the cells are very thin walled and they have dense protoplasm in it, small vacuoles, and they have the capacity to divide very rapidly, and because of this there is increase in number of cells. Now coming to the phase of cell elongation, in this the concentration of solute in the cell is very high, and because of this there is inward entry of water inside the cell. So because of inward entry of water inside the cell, what happens? The turgor pressure develops inside the cell, and in response to the increase in turgor pressure, the cell elongates, means the cell will expand in size. Now coming to the phase of cell differentiation. In this phase, in the phase of cell differentiation, what happens? The cell will convert into a mature or permanent tissue, means it will get differentiated. For example, if we are talking about vascular tissue, the cell will get differentiated into xylem and phloem. So this particular differentiation is important for assigning any specific role to the cell. A particular cell or group of cell or group of tissue will act as vascular tissue for carrying out water and minerals for conduction of water and minerals in the plant. So phase of cell differentiation lead to formation of mature or permanent tissue, and it will lose its capacity to divide further. Now this is the growth curve. That is, if we plot the rate of growth in y-axis and time in x-axis, then we will obtain a curve, and this particular curve is known as growth curve. So the definition is total time during which this course of growth takes place is called grand period of growth. So basically there are two types of curve, that is J curve and S curve. So what is difference between J curve and S curve, and which type of curve we obtain here while discussing about the growth in plants? See, J curve is a ideal type of curve in which environment is not a limiting factor, means environment is unlimited. But in natural condition, in living organism, whether we are talking of the growth of plant or growth of any organism, then the environment becomes limiting, means there is certain limitation of the environmental factors, whether it may be nutrient, oxygen, water, temperature, etc. So in the presence of limiting environment, there is restriction, somewhat restriction in the rate of growth. So the ideal J curve is the ideal condition of growth, but S curve is the growth growth curve we obtain when the environment is limiting. So in case of plant, we have not the J curve, but we have the S curve. Also in any living organism, we obtain the S curve. So this S curve is divided into four phases, that is lag phase, log phase or exponential phase, diminishing growth phase, and stationary phase. So this is lag phase, and in this lag phase the cells prepare itself for cell division. That is, the machinery, the cell machinery get activated, and it leads to the synthesis of protein and enzymes which will help in further cell division. So this is the lag phase, during which the growth is very low or minimal, because the cell is preparing itself for growth. Now it will come to log phase or exponential phase. Here the rate of cell division will be very high and the cell will divide to its maximum. So it is known as exponential phase. Now coming to diminishing growth phase, here what happens? During the division or during the growth of the cell, the environmental factor, that is nutrient, water, oxygen, will start reducing, and there will be accumulation of toxic product. Because of these two factors, the rate of growth or the rate of cell division will reduce. That's why it is known as diminishing growth phase. Now coming to stationary phase. In a stationary phase, what happens? The cell will reach to its maturity or harvesting stage or in senescence stage. So in this phase, it will again the curve will again become steady. So this is a stationary phase where the rate of growth will reduce or it will become steady. So this is what I explained in this figure. Now again there are two important terms, that is AGR, absolute growth rate, and RGR, that is relative growth rate. So the ratio of change in cell number over the time interval is called as absolute growth rate, and when AGR is when divided by total number of cells present in the medium, it gives relative growth rate, that is RGR. Now how can we measure growth? How can we observe that growth is taking place in plant? So there are two important parameters by observing which we can say that yes, the growth is taking place. We can quantify the growth, that is increase in length or increase in thickness in case of stem and root, and if the organ is fruit, then there will be increase in its volume, and if the organ is leaf, then there will be increase in its area. So there are certain instrument also by which we can observe growth. Here you can see it is direct method. The next instrument is arc oxynometer. This is horizontal microscope. This is Pfeffer's oxynometer, and through this we can measure the growth in the plant. Besides this, there is also one instrument, that is Bose crystallograph. Now coming to growth hormones. So growth of the plant is affected by many factors like nutrient, food, oxygen, temperature, etc. But the most important factor which affects plant growth is hormone, phytohormone. So first of all, we will define or we will discuss about growth hormones. So growth hormone is derived from Greek word which means set in motion. So plant hormones should not be confused with nutrients. Nutrients are different and hormones are different. So growth hormones are organic molecules which are different from nutrient. They are non-nutrient molecules, and it affects the various level of transcription and gene expression, and affects cellular division and leads to growth. So plant hormones are produced or required in very low quantity, that is 10 to the power minus 6 to 10 to the power minus 5 mole per liter. So it affects, plant hormone affects various aspects of plant growth like embryogenesis, regulation of organ size, pathogen defense, stress tolerance, and reproductive development. So you must take care of 2 or 3 basic points if you are defining plant growth hormone, that is it is organic molecule, it is non-nutrient. Next is it is required in very low quantity, very low concentration. Third is it controls various aspects of plant growth, and fourth is it is synthesized in all cells unlike animal cell. In case of animal cell, hormones are synthesized in particular gland, but in case of plants there is no specific gland in which hormones are produced. All the cells act as gland, and it is produced or it is synthesized in one particular site, and it exerts its effect in target site which is different from that of the site of biosynthesis. So the first hormone which was discovered was auxin. So these plant hormones are also known as growth regulators or growth promoting substance. So I would like to explain you why it is called regulator, why not promoter. So regulator means it has a promotion effect also, and reduction effect also, means it retards the growth also and it promotes the growth also. So I would like to give the example of the regulator of a fan. So in case of regulator of a fan, you may increase the speed of the fan also, and you may decrease the speed of the fan also depending upon your requirement. If you are feeling cold, you may reduce the speed of the fan. If you are feeling hot, you may increase the speed of the fan. So it is called regulator, means it acts both ways. Similar are the effect of growth hormones. It may increase the growth also, it may reduce the growth also. So my question is the desirable trait is to increase the growth of the plant, but why we need to decrease or decelerate the growth of the plant? See, when the plant is under stress condition, means there is scarcity of water, or heat stress is there, or any biotic or abiotic stress is there, then the plant will first try to survive and then thrive. Means for the survival of the plant, it will have to reduce its certain growth activities. For example, if you are talking about scarcity of water, then you might be knowing, or we will discuss in next lecture about abscisic acid. Abscisic acid is known as stress hormone because it prevents the plant from exposure to stress. Means which is stress? Deficiency of water. So what happens when when there is deficiency of water, then abscisic acid is produced, biosynthesized in the plant, and it exerts its effect in stomata. Means the stomata will get closed in order to reduce the rate of transpiration. The plant will try to conserve water for its survival and not for growth. So if there will be closure of stomata, then automatically there will be reduction in carbon dioxide entry. So there will be reduction in photosynthesis, and that's why the plant growth will get stunted. So here the growth is reduced, but it is ensuring the survival of the plant. Abscisic acid is ensuring the survival of the plant. So first of all, for any living organism, not for the plant only, the survival is more important than growth. For example, I'd like to example of our human being or yours. If you are ill, then your first objective will be to recover from your illness rather than to succeed in examination or to qualify in a competitive examination or to get promotion or to get higher marks. So first of all, what you will try? First of all, you will take rest, you will take food, you will take medicine. First of all, you will recover from your illness, and then you will try to get promotion or get good marks or qualify the examination. Similarly, the plant also, when there is a stress condition, first of all, the plants try to survive and then thrive. So for the survival, there is the requirement of growth retardants, which may reduce the rate of growth and which will ensure the survival of the plant. First hormone, that is auxin. So auxin was discovered by Charles Darwin while studying the tropism in plant. He exposed grass coleoptile to unilateral source of light and observed its bending towards the source of light. So here in this figure you can see this is coleoptile. It is a white tubular structure in which the true leaves are protected. It is a protective organ, and when it ruptures, the true leaves emerge out of it. So what Charles Darwin did, he took this grass coleoptile and he observed its bending towards source of light. Unilateral source of light means the light should be provided from one direction only. Then only you can observe the bending of this coleoptile. So here you can see these pink balls are auxin molecule. When the source of light is above, means it is from all around, then the auxin molecules will be distributed in the whole coleoptile. But what happened when the source of light is unilateral from one side? Then these auxin molecules will try to shift towards the shaded portion of the coleoptile. So when the auxin will shift towards the shaded portion means where there is absence of light. This auxin will stimulate the division of the cell in this shaded region, and because of the cell division and cell elongation in one region and not in this region, not in the illuminated side but in the shaded side, there will be differential growth. Means growth will take place in this region but not in this region, and because of this differential growth, the coleoptile will bend toward the source of light. So this bending was first of all observed by Charles Darwin, and this particular observation led to the discovery of auxin. So here you can see that auxin stimulates phototropism also and negative gravitropism of the shoot also. So in case of phototropism, you can see there is differential growth in the shaded portion as compared to the illuminated portion, and this coleoptile will turn towards the source of light. But in case of seed which is germinating inside the soil, there also the auxin will shift towards the downward portion, towards the gravity. It will move to the downward portion of the coleoptile where there will be increase in cell division and cell elongation as compared to this side, because auxin will move towards the gravity towards this side, and again there will be differential growth, and in response to differential growth the seedling will bend and it will emerge out of the soil. So he covered, in order to prove his experiment, what he did, he covered the tip of the coleoptile with tin foil, and also in another experiment, in similar experiment, he cut it off the tip of the coleoptile, and then he observed that there is no bending of coleoptile towards the unilateral source of light. So he proved that there is certain stimulus which is being transferred from tip of the coleoptile to few millimeters down. Here in this experiment you can see this tip is the point which receives the stimulus, light stimulus, and in response to it this stimulus will move downwards few millimeter down of the tip, and here it will cause the division or elongation of the cell. So he observed that this stimulus is transferred or transmitted from upper to lower part, which induces bending of the coleoptile, and this particular observation of Darwin was published in a famous book which was named Power of Movement in Plant. So this is the Power of Movement in Plant is the name of the book, in which the experiment or observation of this bending of coleoptile was published. So beside Darwin, there another scientist also worked on this experiment, and finally the work of Darwin or the observation of Darwin was proved or confirmed. So let us discuss the experiment of different scientists, what they did. So first of all, as we discussed the experiment of Darwin, here the coleoptile bends towards the source of light. When the tip was cut off, the coleoptile did not bend towards the source of light, and when this tip of the coleoptile was covered with a tin foil or opaque cup-like metal substance, again there was no movement of coleoptile towards the source of light. Now is the Boysen and Jensen experiment, who repeated the same in order to prove this Darwin's experiment. What he did, he removed the tip and he inserted a gelatin pigment, gelatin substance in between the stump and the coleoptile, and he observed that there is bending of coleoptiles towards the unilateral source of light. So this experiment supports or proves that auxin can move through gelatin. Means gelatin doesn't act as barrier for the movement of auxin from tip to stump. That's why the bending of coleoptile took place. Now third is the experiment of Pahl. He is another scientist, and what he did, he cut off, he removed the tip of the coleoptile, and he again placed the cut tip to one side, shifted it to one side. Then he observed that bending of coleoptile took place even in absence of light. Why? Because it is source of auxin, and the auxin may get diffused through this from tip to stump, which lead to the bending of coleoptile. Now is the experiment of Wendt. What he did, he cut the coleoptile tip and he put these tips on agar block. So after putting it in agar block, what happened, the auxin from this tip diffused into the agar block, and after that what he did, he made small blocks of agar and he put this agar blocks to one side of the coleoptile stump, and he observed that auxin which got diffused from tip to agar may get diffused from agar to stump, means it can substitute the requirement of coleoptile tip. So there is again bending of coleoptile. So all this experiment finally confirms or proves the experiment of Darwin, that auxin has phototropism, or it has the ability for bending of coleoptile towards the source of light. So the naturally occurring auxin inside the plant are IAA, that is indole 3 acetic acid, indole 3 butyric acid, 4-chloro-indole 3 acetic acid, and phenyl acetic acid. Besides this, there are synthetic auxin also, which is synthesized in laboratory, and these are not biosynthesized in the plant. That is 2,4-D, 2,4-dichlorophenoxyacetic acid. You must take care of it that it is a herbicide or weedicide, Agent Orange. You might have heard that in World War II, this 2,4-D was used to kill weeds. So again there is an interesting story behind it, that what was the requirement of killing weeds, or what was the requirement of using 2,4-D in World War. In war we generally use bombs and guns and all, so what was the requirement of using 2,4-D? So let me explain you the story behind it. The troops of opponent used to get hide behind the broad-leafed weeds. So the opponent team, troop, what they did, they sprayed 2,4-D on that broad-leafed weeds, because of which the bush or the weeds got killed. And because of killing of these weeds, the opponent teams were exposed, and which could help the opponent team to kill them. So this is also known as Agent Orange. So why it is called as Agent Orange? Because it was exported in a bright orange colored barrel. 2,4-D was exported, was delivered in a bright orange colored barrel. So it is known as Agent Orange, and it is a herbicide. So next is the orthonaphthalene acetic acid, dicamba, and picloram. So all these are synthetic auxins. This is the structure of auxin for natural and synthetic Now coming to biosynthesis of auxin, there are two important pathways for biosynthesis of auxin, that is tryptophan dependent pathway and tryptophan independent pathway. So tryptophan dependent pathway is again divided into four, that is IPA pathway, TAM pathway, IAN pathway and bacterial pathway. So we will discuss all these four pathway one by one. First of all, we will differentiate what is tryptophan dependent pathway and what is tryptophan independent pathway. So first of all I'd like to tell you that tryptophan is precursor of auxin, means auxin is biosynthesized from tryptophan, but tryptophan is again having the precursor, that is chorismic acid. So here you can see the biosynthesis of tryptophan first from chorismic acid. So this is chorismic acid. And it will get converted into anthranilate, and this anthranilate, after anthranilate there will be another intermediate compound, that is IGP, indole 3 glycerol phosphate. So after this indole 3 glycerol phosphate, finally tryptophan will be synthesized. But tryptophan will further go for the biosynthesis of IAA, that is auxin, in tryptophan dependent pathway. But in case of tryptophan independent pathway, this IGP, that is indole 3 glycerol phosphate, will go for the biosynthesis of auxin by bypassing this tryptophan pathway. Means this is the tryptophan independent pathway, and for this tryptophan independent pathway, IGP is the precursor and not tryptophan is the precursor. But in case of tryptophan dependent pathway, tryptophan is the precursor of auxin. So now coming to tryptophan dependent pathway, there are four important pathway, that is IPA pathway. This IPA pathway is named after this intermediate, that is indole 3 pyruvic acid, and this is TAM pathway, that is here the intermediate is tryptamine, and after this after the name of this intermediate, this pathway is known as tryptamine pathway. So TAM pathway is the most universal or functional in most of the plant species. But in the plants in which TAM pathway is not operating, IPA pathway operates. IPA pathway is functional, except tomato. In case of tomato, both these pathways are functional. Now coming to IAN pathway, in which the intermediate is indole 3 acetonitrile. So this pathway is functional in three important plant families, that is Brassicaceae, Poaceae and Musaceae. While this is the bacterial pathway, that is IAM pathway, indole, which is named after the intermediate, that is indole 3 acetamide. So again important question arises that what is the requirement of auxin biosynthesis in bacteria? It is a plant growth hormone. So what is the requirement of biosynthesis of auxin in bacteria? So see, there are two important bacterial species, that is Pseudomonas and Agrobacterium. So you might have heard about Agrobacterium. It is a natural plant genetic engineer. So what happens? It infects the plant in the crown region. Crown region is a region which connects shoot and root. So this Agrobacterium infects the crown region and causes formation of gall and leads to the disease, that is crown gall tumor. So in order to cause tumor is caused by rapid cell division and rapid cell elongation. A mass is formed, tumor is formed, gall is formed. So this particular gall or this the phenomenon of cell division for the formation of gall by Agrobacterium is caused because of biosynthesis of auxin in bacteria. So what is the requirement of formation of gall by bacteria? Bacteria prepares a shelter for residing inside the plant. That's why they first infect in the crown region and they biosynthesize auxin there, and leading to the formation of gall where they can get shelter and then they can infect the plant. So this is the requirement of auxin biosynthesis in bacteria by this pathway.